What's up, everybody? It's Josh with Arrows Digital. We're here with one of my favorite episodes so far. I got to sit down with John Poole, the president, founder of Poole & Company Architects. He's honestly like one of my favorite people. He's been like one of my unofficial mentors for the last 6, 7, 8 years, just because I just love his business. I love the culture he's created, the work they put out, but mostly just like the best guy. And I'm glad that you guys are going to get to listen to this and get to know him. And hopefully you guys get some insights about how to build culture in your own business, and the importance of servant leadership. So stick around and watch the whole thing so YouTube will pay us money. Don, I want to give you your flowers real quick to start off. You've been one of our clients for the last almost 7 years. I've always looked at you from afar, but also from up close with real admiration, because the way you run Poole, from at least my vantage point, is so much of how I want to build my thing. And the reason
Don't make me cry now.
You're gonna cry?
No, I said don't make me cry.
I might do it still. I might cry, honestly, because, business and entrepreneurship is so much of this, in the culture, it's so much of this, hustle porn, go, do anything at any cost, achievement at any cost. But, that's never been your energy to me. It's always been this, calmness and people first energy. It's not even necessarily client first either. It's definitely people first, whoever is involved, how do they feel? And, seeing you operate that way and seeing you build something really fucking real, this, it has been you've been my unofficial mentor, I'm watching you from afar and kind of seeing how you've built this. So I really want to give you your flowers of you're different. You're really different, bro. And that's why, I was telling Kyle, Poole will always have such a special place in my heart because of that. Seeing what you and Kyle have been building the last 7 years, and you before that, and the culture here is just so inspirational. But, sometimes inspiration is it's this far away thing. You made it very real for me, because I had never seen it the air in an office feel that way. So first off, thank you for letting me say that sappy shit on camera.
Appreciate all that.
Yeah, man. But I want to hear from you. Was that intentional? Was that something you had in mind going into the building of the business?
Well, honestly, I think you kind of nailed it, though. For me, it is about the people. I've been thinking about, the past 20 years since I started the company. And I remember being blown away when I left the firm where I had been for 20 years. It's the only place I'd worked before I started this business. I was just blown away by the people that sort of came out of the woodwork, when I started this company solo. I had so much support, whether it were, consulting engineers that I had worked with over the years. Family, obviously, were huge supporters. I had all kinds of people that wanted to see me do well and who wanted to connect me to their friends that they thought might have opportunities for me to, provide service to them. It was really amazing. It's all about people, whether it's, the people in your life who are a part of your family, or the people in your life that are part of your small group or part of your business. It's community. We were not intended to live this life alone. I understand that, and that's really important to me.
You've always talked about this, always keeping the end user in mind. So even if Children's of Alabama, the hospital, is the client, your always thought is the end user, the children themselves, the families, and how to best serve them too. Is there any connection between that and what you just spoke about with even with the employees? I work with Kelly, but realistically, there's also maybe a thought that whatever my interactions with Kelly has effect on Kelly's kids. And like you talked about in community, like there is this like we're not just the branches out in the most immediate kind of like circle. Like we have impact past that. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, I think to your point, we know, people have small children and families and crazy things going on with parents. And, there's something going on in somebody's life all the time. And so what we can do to support that, at the company level, and I'd say it's the same with our clients. I remember a client that I've started working with back in 2007, and he had a really tough stretch of life. Had a difficult situation with a contractor that built the project. Ended in an arbitration. That went on for 2 years. Very stressful. He went through a divorce. It was a lot. And he was, very close to just a mental breakdown. I spent some time with him, and, he didn't have any work for me to do. I didn't do it for any other reason than just care and concern. I felt for the guy, and I wanted to be there for him. And, he'll never forget that.
You don't see that in the bottom line, but like you will sort of at the bottom line of like your life, type of thing.
Yeah, I saw a quote just the other day. I think it was Maya Angelou, and she said, people won't remember what you think, they won't remember what you said, but they'll always remember how they made you feel.
That's real, man.
Yeah.
So 20 years, Poole and Company is celebrating 20 years today. Actually, we're gonna go party. I'm gonna drink all your booze tonight.
Bring it on.
Let's go, dude. Can you go back? So 20 years, what's that, 2005?
Yeah.
Can you go back to 2005, John? What was he feeling day one of Poole and Company?
Okay, interesting. Might not be what you think, but, I'd been at it in this business for 20 years, almost. Quite honestly, I was burned out. Like I said, the firm where I worked, incredible firm, did incredible work, but it could tend to be toxic, might be harsh, but a very intense environment. I don't know. I'd really sort of reached a point where I was wondering, do I want to do this? Do I want to keep doing this? Or do I want to maybe do something else? And so a good friend of mine who worked for a large general construction company here in town had just left about a year earlier and started his own commercial concrete subcontracting business. And so he was in a place where he was, had grown rapidly. He started the company by himself. Of course, he had some, field guys, and he needed some help with project management and, covering meetings and, just a variety of things. He was kind of wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
So we were talking one day and at lunch. And so he said, look, I really need some help. And so, if you want to help me out, I'll put you on my payroll part-time.
Hell yeah.
And, then you can figure out what you want to do. If you want to start building a business plan, maybe I'm a part of that. We'll see. So that's how it started. And so it was kind of nice because it was a completely clean slate. Didn't have to worry too much about putting food on the table for my wife and 3 little kids at the time.
Nice.
But it didn't take me long. Within several months, as I said, all of these friends of mine who were, in all places in the business, in the design and construction community, started reaching out to me and contacting me and cheering me on and connecting me with people that they felt like, I would be a good fit for. And so it was pretty clear, even after 4 or 5 months, that I was, wanted to continue doing what I was doing.
I think it's so funny you said, like, it might not be what you think, but, like, that was my exact feeling when I started Arrows. That was of day one.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even 20 years of doing my thing. That's how lazy I was probably as a kid. But I just remember being, like, so burnt out. And because the place I was coming from was for sure a grind house. Learned a ton. And toxic might have been what you call it, but we learned so much, and I have so much appreciation for that time. But I just remember day one being, I just wanted to sleep, like really just being like, and then thinking, do I keep going? Whatever. And so it's kind of cool to hear that like your origin story came from that same place. Because I feel like for me, it's like, it's kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. It's like informed how I want to like deal with Aaron or deal with Trey and Marina and Kimaya before. And, even my business partner about like, how do we avoid that feeling for everybody involved,
Right.
like, and I think it's like so formative for your business too, about like, how do we make this sustainable for everybody else? So you go 20 years and you're not like wanting to take like a 3-day nap, you know what I mean?
Right.
um if you could go back to 2005 John, as you, what would be your biggest advice to him?
That's a great question.
Mm.
I guess what pops in my head is just be confident. Just have the confidence to do what you believe is the right path. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to jump out and start your own business. It comes with a lot of anxiety, especially with, a young family.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to have more confidence right now, but,
Same.
worry less, just tackle the problems of the day and put your head down at night and just be confident that, one way or another, it's going to be okay.
What have you found over the last 20 years to be your leadership philosophy? And like, what's the most important thing you've learned about leadership in that time?
A couple of years before I did start the company, I met with an attorney on a different matter. But he was very, very familiar with the business where I worked and the leadership there. It was a family business. And what I remember him saying that I've never forgotten is that, if you make the decision to leave this company and do something else, think very carefully about all the things about this company that you would do different yourself or that you don't like. Mm-hmm. And make sure you don't repeat those same things. Which was great advice. If I find myself in a situation where I might be handling something that doesn't feel quite right, or it might remind me of the way things were handled, before I started the company, then that kind of is a wake-up call. Okay, let's think about that. Am I doing some of the things that I said that I hated about the place where I used to work? And if I am, then don't do that,
Yeah.
Take a different route.
So it's just like a perpetual like self-awareness check almost.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, that like self-awareness is sort of the lifeblood of leadership almost.
Yeah, I think it is. But I would say, to answer your question about leadership style, for me, I'd say it's servant leadership. This business is a team sport.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have to have clients that have, businesses or developments that they need to accomplish. And so you have to have your clients. We rely on so many other, and so many other folks that play a part in what we do. I mean, we have structural and mechanical and plumbing and electrical engineers. We have contractors and subcontractors that actually build, our ideas. And there's a tremendous amount to learn from all those different groups of people. And, if you take the position that everything and you're the one that's teaching everybody how to do it is what they do, then you're going to be miserable and you're probably going to fail.
I needed to hear that today. Because sometimes it's almost like I have to remind myself that it's like, if everything is coming from just my ideas, then like how small are those ideas actually? Like if we haven't like checked with everybody else, it's almost like a micromanaging of the creative,
Right. And it goes the same with the company and in our staff. I don't I don't want to hire everyone that, I mean, to have surround myself with people that are just like me.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's, to deal with very different personalities and people that have very different approaches and think about things from a completely different viewpoint can be taxing, but it also, what I always find is that there's tremendous value in that. So if we're trying to solve a problem or look at a situation from multiple different perspectives, in the end, you get a better solution because you do have that diversity
in perspective and stuff like that, which actually that's a great segue to my next question. Like, when I met you, you had just brought on a partner in Kyle, right? You guys are alike, but you guys couldn't be more different.
Also, that is correct.
In so many ways, and I have a business partner too, and we get a lot of that same feedback. They were like, because Quinn's a lot like you, I think that's why I like you a lot. You guys are cute little guys, like quiet little dudes, but like super analytical, like and really see things from like a whole nother perspective than me. Because, you've talked so much about like, obviously bringing in other perspectives and kind of the power of delegation. Like, but I want to know about the suppression of ego in those moments, because my ego is giant. Like, it's the size of fucking Jupiter, to a certain extent. Sometimes when to share, not control necessarily, but even share ideas or share creative responsibility for something can feel scary. Can you walk me through like that experience for you and maybe what you've learned from that experience over the last 6, 7, 8 years?
Checking my ego at the door comes pretty easy, natural.
Yeah.
Kyle and I had worked together for probably at least 10, maybe 15 years, before we kind of went our separate ways. He stayed with the firm longer than I did and then did some other things before we kind of reconnected. And then Kelly Mullins.
Shout out to Kelly.
Yep. Shout out to Kelly. She was my first architect hire back in 2006. And we worked very closely together for 5 years at the previous firm before I left. And, Kelly and I are probably more alike than Kyle and I are alike.
Yeah.
But again, Kelly's skill sets are different from mine. I mean, Kelly is, very analytical thinker, just a real logical thinker. She handles really all of our operations now, keeps us organized and, figures out how to best use our resources. And, from a creative standpoint, just, sees things a little differently than I do. And Kyle's the same.
Yeah.
So, and we have, several people come to mind in the office that, that have different ways of thinking about things and different perspectives. And so you kind of learn who those people are. And, sometimes when you feel like you're stuck, and you've got a group of people that are stuck working on something, where to go to find those people that'll help shake things up and to sort of turn things inside out and allow you to see it in a different light.
Well, like whatever kind of like adjustment or friction that could have come from ceding any sort of like creative control or anything like that, you're seeing the benefit of the diverse ideas, the maybe even like less workload or kind of like different skill sets. You're seeing the benefit upfront and prioritizing that first and foremost. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, definitely. To the point of supporting toxic rock stars. That's that's something. I mean, everybody's got to learn how to be respectful and, get your ideas across.
Yeah.
Some in a more aggressive way than the others, but we have zero tolerance for toxic rock stars here.
What's the point?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. What's the point?
And it's just, it destroys company culture.
100%. 100%. Also, yeah, because that's the thing I never understood. I'm glad you brought up the team sport before, because I've been in situations before where like it really mattered to somebody like who scored the point. But I'm like, yo, you could, using a basketball analogy, you could put up 50, but if we lose, nobody's gonna talk about your 50-point game.
Right.
Like I'm trying to win,
Right.
and if I win, we all win. If you win, we all win. But it doesn't really matter whose idea gets out there or who gets credit. I mean, obviously, I'm going to do my best to make sure right people get credit so they all feel nice. But, you can have all the accolades in the world, but we lose the work. Who cares, dude, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like to say, there's no I in team. And again, it's just, there's so many parts of making a building come to life.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's the creative part of it, and there's the constructability part of it, and there's the, engineering of it. And so, um, nobody does it alone in our business.
100%. Another cool thing about the last, the last 6, 7, 8 years I've been with you guys is like seeing the company grow too. Like obviously you, Kyle, Kelly, you guys are like the rocks, the pillars of the business. But seeing that next generation come up behind you guys, and then now that next generation behind them, like I remember when Faith, Josh, Tyler, me, like I'd say we call ourselves the pool kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like now there's this like I saw Josh like, giving direction to one of like the even more junior people. I'm like, that's surreal. Like that's weird.
Yeah.
What's it been like seeing that and, seeing that next two waves come up behind you and like your role in their careers? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? And, has that been rewarding? What's that been for you?
Yeah, that's really exciting. It's and a lot of fun. To see people kind of, reaching the next level and wanting more, it's extremely rewarding. And it just, I'm just super excited about our future. I mean, it's been a great 20 years and we've done a lot of great work, but I think our potential for the next 20 is, 5x, 10x.
Oh yeah.
Because of the group of people that we've assembled and, their passion for what we do. And, it's going to be fun.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Like I was talking to Kyle and Kelly about it on Tuesday, and it's like, I feel, in soccer, right? There's like the different leagues. I feel like you went up a league like in the last few years, and it's like we're going up against the big boys, you know what I mean? But it's like, okay, how do we ramp up for that? And like talking about kind of that mindset and kind of like tactics to go with that. But what gets you excited the most about? It's cliche to be like, oh, the next 20 or whatever, but really just like the future. Like, does this feel like a new era? And like, what gets you up in the morning for it?
I think what's really unique, and maybe it's not as unique as I think, but what I love about it is that, we have the opportunity as architects to shape our city and to shape the environment. And that's something that will be there hopefully for a long time. I remember, Joe Jatina, I don't mind mentioning Joe's name, is who I worked for 20 years. And, he left a mark on the city. You can drive all over town, all over the outskirts of town and see some really well done work. So he left a legacy. And, I'd love to, sort of follow in those footsteps. And we're doing that, but it takes time. It just takes time. So I'm excited to see, how much more of an impact that we can make.
Yeah. Cause it's like a very tangible impact on the city, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not wispy.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, it's not an idea or on a sheet of paper. I mean, it's something you see and use and experience. It's, it's interesting. It's art, but it's also, has a very functional aspect to it.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny you bring up art. How do you try to, in your mind, like, how do you balance out that creative side with the business side too, because I think even in my field, the ones that make it far are the ones that make it far are the ones that get both, that understand that they have to coexist,
Mm-hmm.
and then the ones that stay freelancers forever are they're just like, oh, I just want to create, but I'm like, bro, you gotta buy groceries, like, like how do you do that in your mind? Like,
Yeah, it is an ongoing.
it's like the devil and God.
It is. It's an ongoing struggle, but I feel like we're always pushing the agenda of art and creativity and making better places and spaces. Whether our clients are interested in it or not. That's just. I think that's just kind of in an architect's DNA.
Yeah.
To want to do that. I think some people have this idea that somehow that costs more money, but it doesn't have to, You're right. I mean, you can't be the starving artist and, support a company of 25 people.
Yeah.
And so
it sounds almost like, yes, the business comes in, but the business becomes a platform for the art.
you sort of have to figure out where to fight for, the critical, we'll call it artistic aspects of a project,
Yeah.
It's like, what is really at the core? What is at the heart of this project that could make it something very unique? And you hold on for dear life, to get that
But
done.
you're trying to reach for the soul of it.
Yeah.
More than trying to get off, like what we were talking about earlier, like get your idea off. It's less about that. It's about, you're saying, like, get to the core, get to the soul of the piece. And that's what you fight for.
Right. Contractors are our partners. And they are not necessarily focused on the same things we are. They are trying to deliver something on time and on budget.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes that creates some natural tension, between some of the things that we're trying to do.
Yep, makes sense.
Um,
Couple more questions here before we wrap up. If you weren't an architect, what do you think you'd be doing?
you're going to laugh. This.
Okay.
I've thought off and on about being a priest.
Really?
Hey, that's way harder than being an architect. Tell you that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
So you went through that, crossed your mind?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I think, and even as a younger person, I think I sort of had that idea cross my mind, and I think my mom was like, "No, you're not going to be a priest. I'm going to do everything I can to crush that dream."
I've never heard of a mom being like, "Do not do that. Do not be a spiritual person." That's allowed.
No, my mom was just a very scrappy kind of depression to survive depression. And it's like, no, you're not going down that road.
We need to, you better figure that out. That's so funny. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained one ability, it could be like a superpower or whatever, what would it be?
Honestly, I would say the ability to be free from worry.
Ooh. I thought you were gonna say like fly or something. You said something real. Damn, that's actually that.
Imagine how wonderful that would be. It's like, hey, I did everything I could today. I'm going to bed.
I've literally never heard of that,
and I'm gonna get up in the morning and just do it again, and I'm not worried about it.
I just need everybody who's listening on audio to know my jaw is on the floor because, what? That's an answer. Holy crap. That's so real. I thought you were going to say like, because usually people are like, yeah, we're going to teleport. And you're like, lack of anxiety. That would save everybody's life out here, man.
You probably wouldn't need to fly. You wouldn't need to teleport. You wouldn't have to do all those things.
Because you'd be patient.
Because you wouldn't worry about it.
You wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah,
because people want to teleport because they're like worried about like getting somewhere on time or safely. Right. But you're like, it is what it is. I'm going to get there when I get there.
That's right.
Damn. That's a bar if there ever was one. Okay, a last question here. When you think about your legacy, what do you hope you'll be known for in 20 years?
I don't know. It's hard to put that into words, but again, I'd say it's pretty simple. It's just, um, I must go back to the quote, I want people to remember me for a guy that did right by him, you know? Just want to be remembered as a good guy.
Mm.
I don't ask for a lot.
Just know, man, like you've always been a good guy to me. That's how I'm always gonna remember you. I told Cheyenne that I was like, I'm gonna get to do this pod with John, and that's how she remembers you. So if that's two people that I can be very sure that legacy will be cemented, bro. For sure, me, bro. So like, always done right by us, and you've been such a inspiration, like I said up front, and like a fucking North Star for what I want to do, bro. So like, it's different things.
Awesome.
It's different things, obviously, but I've taken a lot from you just from afar, and I'm glad I could tell you that today, especially while I go drink all your booze tonight and eat all your food. But man, for real, man, if I can almost say like with definitive, like that legacy is cemented right now for sure.
That's awesome.
My guy, bro.
Glad to hear it.
Appreciate it. Gosh.